The Returnee. A story by Eby's Heart. Many years ago, a young beautiful girl was sitting with her friends, boasting and telling them about her husband who will be returning home from abroad by the weekend. "Chukka, my husband is coming home this weekend," Amaka said to her peers with pride. They all envied her and wished to be her. Chukka's parents paid Amaka's dowry when she was a baby. They wanted their first son who traveled abroad to marry her. 22 years later, Amaka, who have never seen Chukka, was priding herself as the wife of Chukka, the abroad-based industrious son of their village. Chukka's wealth blinded Amaka and her parents' reasoning. "How can a man who has lived for over 20 years abroad come home and marry your daughter?" An elder once teased Amaka's father, but he didn't care. They didn't consider how old he might be, they only cared about how he will return and take Amaka abroad. On the day he was supposed to come home, Amaka and her family invited cultural dance groups. His parents also called their kinsmen to welcome their son. The day Chukka landed in the village, he was sitting at the back of a tinted black car. And he was dressed in a thick black cloth with black sunshade. Everyone was dancing in front of his vehicle, but the vehicle didn't stop. Rather, the driver drove him into the compound. Chukka came out of the car and ran into the room he had asked his family to prepare for him. He locked the door to the room and was peeping through the window. The entire village gathered and were dancing inside his large compound. He made a lot of money and built the biggest mansion in his village. "We will give Chukka, your son, a title befitting of his position," a man amongst his clan said to Chukka's father. They danced and waited for Chukka for almost an hour, but he refused to open his door nor come downstairs. He was inside his room, peeping through a window blind, avoiding the sunlight. His parents, who were already old, started knocking at his door. "Open the door, my son. Come and greet your people. Everyone is here to welcome you. Even the king sent a representative to welcome you." They even brought Amaka, his wife, to plead by the door, but Chukka refused to open the door. When it became dark and all the people that came to welcome him had left, Chukka came out to meet his worried parents. He was still wearing his sunshade. His mother, who was crying, rushed to hug him. He lied that he was scared of the crowd harming him. That was why he hid until it became dark. Amaka, who was in the kitchen with their housekeeper, rushed to hug him. Chukka hugged her so tightly and said, "Let's go and see your parents right now." His parents thought it was weird and late as well to visit anyone, but didn't mind. Amaka, who was over the moon with joy, did not object. Dressed in black with sunshade covering his eyes that very night, Chukka walked into the home of his in-laws. They were so happy to see him. "Why is he wearing dark sunshade at night?" Amaka's cousin's sister whispered in her ears. Amaka was carried away by the wads of dollar bills Chukka dropped on the table for her parents. They all danced and tried to thank him by shaking his hands. But his hands were covered with black gloves. But they didn't still mind. "I will be flying my wife Amaka to the United States tomorrow. Her papers are ready," Chukka announced. Amaka jumped up happily, hugging her mother, and everyone started dancing with joy. No one asked him how he was able to prepare papers for Amaka that he was just seeing for the first time in years. They all felt they were fortunate. Chukka took Amaka home that night and sucked her blood dry. He took her corpse downstairs at midnight and started digging the ground to bury her. He had to bury her fast before she turns into a monster like himself. He was a vampire. But while he was digging the ground, his parents, who heard Amaka's scream, were peeping through their room window and watching their son digging the ground with ordinary hands and Amaka's corpse lying on the ground beside him. "What is he doing? Is he even human?" Chukka's father said, looking terrified. Chukka, after burying Amaka, covered her grave spot with some leaves and flowers. He walked into his room, looking younger than he was when he has returned. His father started crying and saying, "What happened to Chukka? I must tell the king. I will not condone this. What do I tell my in-laws happened to their daughter?" "Shut up, Papa Chukka. How can you say such about our son? It may not be what we are thinking. Let us observe him and see what happens first," Chukka's mother said to her terrified husband. The next day, they waited for Chukka to come out of his room so that they can ask him some questions, but he locked the door just like the day he returned. His mother knocked for him to open the door, but he didn't respond. "How can you stay inside the house for a whole day without eating?" his mother had asked, "and where is Amaka?" All their questions fell on deaf ears as Chukka neither responded nor opened the door for them. The only thing Chukka told them in a strange voice was that Amaka had gone to America. They were shocked because they had seen him burying Amaka. They were still talking when they heard a knock on their door. It was Amaka's parents and siblings. Amaka's family had come with some local foodstuffs to bid Amaka farewell to America. "Where is our in-law and our daughter? We want to give them these things to travel abroad with them," Amaka's mother said, smiling. Chukka's parents quickly realized that Chukka had told them about Amaka's travel and lied. Chukka and Amaka already left. They were in a hurry so that Amaka will not miss her flight. Amaka's parents were a little bit disappointed, but still overjoyed that their daughter had traveled to America. They stayed for a while and left. It wasn't long before the news of Amaka's journey was all over the village. Everyone envied her and wanted to be like her. So Chukka only came home to pick Amaka. "Amaka is so lucky," her friends said, envying her. Chukka came out at night again and lied that he was no longer used to walking about during the day. His parents then asked him about Amaka and he lied. "Amaka had gone to America. I wanted her to go and wait for me. I will join her soon." His parents knew he was lying, but they didn't know what to do. "But you have not eaten since morning," his mother had told him. Chukka smiled and said he had fruits and people from America hardly eat the kinds of food they cook. He got up and tried to leave the house that night. He wanted to look for food to eat, but his parents told him not to try it. The local vigilante boys are very aggressive this time around, and if you are caught walking about at night, they will hand you over to the police, and it will be a disgrace to this family. His father had warned. Chukka, who has become very hungry, could not sleep. He does not want to turn anyone in their village into a vampire. "Turning them into what I am will expose me," he had thought. He only needed someone he can drain their blood and bury to avoid the person coming back to life. So he started walking around their house, looking for their housekeeper. Their housekeeper was an elderly woman who comes in to cook for his parents every day. He was looking for the housekeeper, not knowing that his parents were watching him. He found the housekeeper washing the pots she had used to cook so that she can go home for the night. Chukka, who had become really bloodthirsty, didn't think before jumping on the woman and devouring her. His parents, who were right behind him, screamed in fear. He turned and looked at them with anger. Just then a knock was heard on the door. The woman's son was calling out his mother's name. He had come to escort her home as he does sometimes. Chukka's parents both turned to look at each other in shock. His parents, who felt they must protect their son, quickly got themselves and rushed to the door. The woman's son greeted them and tried to go in, but they blocked his way and said, "Your mother already left. She said she needed to see Mama Uche down the road." The housekeeper's son walked away in doubt. His mother hardly went to anywhere from work. They saw him walking away but didn't expect what happened next. Chukka suddenly ran past them like breeze. He dragged the housekeeper's son inside and did the same thing he had done to his mother to him. His parents were crying and asking what has happened to him and why he was doing that to people. But they didn't feel it was necessary to raise alarm and get their son arrested or killed. They covered him up. After all, he was their precious son whom they had sent abroad years ago. How can they turn their backs on him? The next morning, the housekeeper's other son came to know why their mother did not come home the previous night. But Chukka's parents told him that his older brother came to escort their mother home, and they pretended to be shocked that they both did not get home. They both tried to know what was going with their son, but Chukka had already gone into his room and shut the door as usual. "We are finished. What do we do?" Chukka's father asked in panic. "I think we need to speak to Father Jonah. Chukka need prayers, and keeping quiet will destroy all of us," his father suggested in fear. They both prepared and visited Father Jonah. Being devout Catholics, they believed they could pray away the evil in their son. "Chukka has changed. He doesn't eat, drink or leave his room since he returned," Chukka's mother said, crying. "But I thought he has returned back to America with Amaka," Father Jonah asked, looking confused. They both looked at each other and said, No, Amaka returned alone with Chukka's friend. Chukka wants to stay here for a while before returning. They both lied. Father Jonah smiled and promised to visit them in the evening. They also posted the letters they had written to their other 2 children who were supposed to return in a few days and see Chukka not to come. They were scared that their other children might be in danger if they come home. That evening, Father Jonah came as he promised, but when they went to call Chukka, they didn't see him in his room. Chukka, who was very bloodthirsty, had gone out to look for what to eat. They told Father Jonah to pray for him in his absence. After praying, they took Father Jonah to Chukka's room to pray. Father Jonah did and bid them good night. Maybe I will come in the morning to see how he is faring, Father Jonah said and left. He was leaving when he saw something like a human shadow run past his car. In their village, only Father Jonah and the king owned a car. So Father Jonah can leave his car on the road in the middle of nowhere as long as he likes and nothing will happen. What was that? Father Jonah asked while parking his car. He noticed that the figure under the moonlight was slowing down. He tiptoed behind the figure and saw the figure going into Chukka's compound. He hid near the grass at the entrance of their house and saw Chukka clearly in the light. He was carrying what seemed like the corpse of a girl on his shoulder while his parents were opening the door for his in fear. Father Jonah could feel the evil aura coming out of him. So he ran to his car and was angrily driving to the house of the head of the security in their village. They need to come and confirm what he just saw on Chukka's shoulder. However, Chukka, who had noticed that the priest saw him, dropped the body he was carrying and ran after Father Jonah's car. Father Jonah noticed that his car was being dragged backwards and could not move as much as he used to. That was when he saw the same dark figure pulling his car backwards. "Is that Chukka?" Father Jonah said, trembling when he saw him. He drove his car faster and sped off. He started going into the closest compound next to him, blaring the horn of his car as a way of calling for help. But the car became stuck because Chukka was holding it down. Father Jonah ran out of his car screaming, "Help! Help!" Just then Chukka stretched his hands and scratched him so deep on his back that he fell down and was bleeding from his neck down to his back. Everyone in that compound ran outside trying to help. They didn't know that it was Father Jonah, so they were scared of rushing to where he was lying down. Chukka wanted to finish Father Jonah up so that he will not call his name, but he was also scared of being found out. So he stood at a distance, watching Father Jonah bleeding out, wishing he would die from the deep scratch he had given him. But he kept crying and moaning in pain until the occupants of the compound recognized him. "It's Father Jonah," they all shouted. They tried to help him while asking him what happened to him. He tried to talk to them, so he said, "I was attacked by Chu, but he passed out before he could complete the name." Chukka, who has not left, was listening to what he was saying. When he noticed that Father Jonah couldn't call his name, he fled and returned home. They rushed Father Jonah to the hospital and he was placed on drugs while still unconscious. The youths of the village came out that night, searching the entire forest, looking for the animal that attacked Father Jonah. Meanwhile, Chukka got home and became restless. He knew it was a matter of time before Father Jonah wakes up and calls his name. The thought of what will happen to him if he comes out during the day scared him so much. He looked at the cream he had bought with almost all his money, the cream that helped him to walk under the sun to board flight back home, and cried. He can never come out during the day. So he went to his parents and asked them to go to the hospital and kill Father Jonah. "He will expose me," he cried. "We will go, but we need to know what is wrong with you. Why do you drink people's blood and you do not eat food?" Chukka's father asked fearlessly. "I am sick, Papa. I am so sick, that is why I came back home. I became a wanted man in America, because I have killed a lot of people." His mother wept bitterly. They both promised to do everything possible to protect him. "We will go and take food to Father Jonah. As respected parishioners, our food will be given to him once we get there, so we will poison his food," Chukka's mother said confidently. Immediately it was morning. Chukka's parents were about to leave home with the food they had prepared for Father Jonah. Before they left, they heard a knock at their door. Their housekeeper's family were there with some elders to ask about their housekeeper and his son's whereabout. Chucka's parents pretended so well about how sad they were about their housekeeper's disappearance. "We came to ask both of you officially because we are going to the greatest deity of our land to inquire the whereabout of your housekeeper, who is our daughter and her son." They wanted to inform them first before consulting the gods of the land, but Chucka's parents, who were in a hurry to visit Father Jonah, were not even listening to what their visitors were saying. Immediately their visitors left, Chucka's parents ran to the hospital. But they were late. The parish priest has woken up and was surrounded by the villagers. He had already told them what Chucka was doing. So the local vigilante surrounded Chucka's parents and arrested them. They put them at the front while everyone was chanting behind them, heading to their house to arrest Chucka. Chucka looked through the window while hiding away from the sun. He was so furious at his parents. "They couldn't even protect me. They are very useless." Chucka angrily kicked the things in his room. Because Father Jonah had warned that Chucka was very dangerous, the youths and the vigilante surrounded their house while the other villagers looked from afar. Chucka managed to dodge the sunlight and locked all the entrance into their house. The youths who were afraid started shouting for him to open the door, but he refused. After a while, they started throwing dry leaves doused in kerosene and lit with matches inside the house. Soon the entire house was on fire. Chucka's parents were crying and begging for mercy. When the fire got to where Chucka was, he started screaming in pains. But he knows that his injuries will heal once he sucks blood to his fill. So he was just wasting time, hoping they will continue waiting for him until it was dark, so that he can kill all of them and run away. But the fire continued growing, and when it became too much, Chucka was seen trying to climb the part of their roof that was dark. The youth started stoning him until he fell. Immediately he came out, he fell on the ground. The youths rushed to beat him up, but he turned into a dark smoke and evaporated. Everyone ran for their lives except his parents. They could not believe their son was gone. He was not even human all along. His parents later took them around their farm at the back of their house and showed them the graves of Amaka and the others. The whole village was thrown into mourning. They got their greatest shock when they exhumed the dead bodies and noticed their heads were cut off and buried differently. But the heads were talking and the bodies were moving. They have never seen anything like that. So to purge the land of evil, they took the bodies and burned them far away from their land, in the evil forest. Chucka parents were banished and banned from ever stepping their foot in their land. Meanwhile, Father Jonah was miraculously healed and discharged. Even the doctor that treated him was surprised at the rate his deep cut was healed overnight. Even though Father Jonah and the entire village called it miracle, the doctor felt something was wrong. Few days later, Father Jonah was trying to forcefully open a drawer in his office. He was trying to use a hammer to break it. But when after a while, he angrily dragged the drawer and to his surprise, the drawer broke into half. He sustained a deep cut in his hand and was bleeding. Father Jonah quickly reached for his first aid box to attend to the wound, but before he could get the box and look at the wound has healed up. He became very scared and decided to investigate and read more about what was happening to him. After his investigation, he found out that he was almost a vampire. The only thing keeping him human was that he had not died. The day he dies, his body will heal and wake up. This will turn him into Chucka and he will depend of drinking human blood to survive. Father Jonah was relieved that it will take him dying before he can become a vampire. So he wrote to his family and the church to cut him into pieces once he dies. "Within 5 minutes of my death, cut me in pieces and bury my head separate from my body," he had written. The church and his family thought his request was strange, but still agreed to honor his request. However, 1 month after Father Jonah's discovery, he was inside the hall being built by the church within the church premises. He was inspecting the project with some church members when the building collapsed on them. People gathered and were trying to help the victims, especially Father Jonah, who was shouting in pain, but Father Jonah was dead. A rod pierced through his head, making him to die on the spot. Due to the obstructions preventing people from rescuing Father Jonah and the others, Father Jonah's wish of being cut in pieces after death could not be granted as at when due. They were rescued hours later, and by then it was too late for Father Jonah. He was already a vampire. Keeping quiet to allow evil thrive because your loved one is involved is the real evil. The evil that Chuuka's parents refused to expose ruined Father Jonah's life.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.